Chag Sameach. Welcome to Torah Unleashed. Those of you that are here in our teaching center, and those of you that are coming in through our YouTube Torah Unleashed channel, we want to welcome each and every one of you and say on this evening, Shabbat Shalom. Most of the time we are on in the morning, but now on the first night of Sukkot, we are now having and studying about the fall feast. We want to unleash the fall feast 2024. And so we want to be able to bring all the fall feasts. We've been doing Yom Teruah, Yom Kippur, and today is the first day of Sukkot. And so today we want to celebrate the first night of Sukkot 2024. The first night of Sukkot. Chag Sukkot, the feast of Sukkot, the Feast of Tabernacles, the Feast of Booths, the Feast of Tents. There's all kinds of different names for it, but it is a time of celebration. This is a big celebration in the time of Torah. And this is a harvest time, a harvest festival also. But for us, one of the things that we're going to be doing today is we're going to be studying on the birth of Yeshua at Sukkot. The birth of Yeshua at Sukkot. Now, let me give a warning first. The following contains graphic images and information that is not suitable for Christians. So if you're a Christian, it may cause doubt. It may cause disbelief. It might even cause anger. You might even get angry. Young children may have to re-educate their parents to follow the resulting protocols. But the truth will set you free. The truth will set you free. And that's what we want to do. We want to bring truth. Now, when we think of the birth of Yeshua, mostly everybody thinks of what has been known as the nativity scene. The nativity scene with Joseph and Mary there with their halos and the baby Jesus there. We see shepherds, we see wise men there bringing stuff to Yeshua. We see other people there in a stable with little lambs. This is a typical nativity scene. Well, the first thing we need to know about a nativity scene, with some of the elements were there, all these elements were there, but not at the same time. It's actually what we call the birth of Yeshua sequence actually occurred, as we're going to see, in a 2-year period. Actually, a little more than 2 years, because it started with the annunciation and conception of Yohanan, John, the annunciation and conception of Yeshua. And of course, those are 9 months and 9 months. And then the birth of each one. And then a 2-year period when the Magi came. They didn't come when Yeshua was born. They came 2 years later when Yeshua was a little toddler, when he was 2 years old. And so most of what we've been taught is wrong. In fact, one of the most important things that we've been taught that is wrong is the dates for the birth of Yeshua. When was Yeshua born? And can we know when he was born? One of the first things we know is that December 25th is the traditional popular date. Catholics and Protestants, almost every Christian believes wrongly, that Yeshua was born on December 25th. Recently, some people are saying that he was born on Yom Teruah, September 11th of 3 BCE, a traditional Rosh Hashanah that year. And some people believe he was born at the Passover season, from Aviv 1 around April 3rd. Jonathan Kahn, Jews for Jesus, and other Christian type groups that follow a semi-messianic way, believe that he was born during the Passover season. And I've heard a lot of people, again, because of popularity of people on TV or on media and YouTube, where we're at here, they listen to many of these. And what we need to look at is, I personally teach that Yeshua was born on Sukkot. And it says, but when the fullness of time came, when the Kairos came, not the chronology, but the Kairos time, the Moed, the exact appointed time, when the appointed time came, Elohim sent his son, born of a woman, born under Torah. Yeshua wasn't born at any time. He couldn't be born at any time. It's not a matter of fate, or it's a matter of the Father, our Father, sending Yeshua, sending him through a woman, born of a woman, born under Torah. Not born of a man and a woman, but born of a woman and born under Torah. 1 John 4:9. By this the love of Elohim was manifested in us, that Elohim has sent his only begotten Son into the world so that we might live through him. In the Gospel of John, Yeshua was using the word sent. I was sent by the Father. I did not come on my own. I was sent. Yeshua is the sent one. And he was sent at the right time. He was born at the right time. Everything about Yeshua was at the right time. Not only was his birth at the right time, but his death was at the right time at Passover. His burial was at the right time on the first day of unleavened bread. His resurrection was at the right time, the day of first fruits. His sending of the Holy Spirit was at the right time, the Feast of Pentecost. And in his second coming, Yeshua is going to come at the right time. He's going to come and resurrect the living and the dead at the right time on Yom Teruah. And then he's going to come back on this earth a second time. Every eye shall see him at the right time on Yom Kippur. And he will establish the kingdom of David at the right time on Sukkot. His first coming was at Sukkot. His second coming is going to also be on Sukkot. He was here for 30-some years on his first coming, and on his second coming for the Feast of Sukkot, he's going to be here for 1,000 years, where he's going to dwell with us. The first time In the beginning, it says, was the Word. En arche ein halogos, in the beginning was the Word. Breshit chaya chadavar, in the beginning was the Word. The chadavar was with Elohim, and the chadavar, the Word, was Elohim. And the Word, chadavar, it says, became flesh. And He tabernacled among us. He took upon a tabernacle. He took upon Himself a body of flesh. And He tabernacled. The eternal Word of Elohim, the Word of Elohim, the Word, the Chadavar, that Elohim spoke the world into existence, was now tabernacled in a human body. And through this body, He lived for these 30-some years and resurrected in that same body after His death. And He is alive to this day, and He's coming again, and He's going to again tabernacle with us for 1,000 years as the prophet, priest, and king. Yeshua was sent. What is His purpose? Elohim, it says, so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whoever believes in Him should not perish but have everlasting life. For Elohim loved that He gave, that He gave, that He gave. This gifting is threefold. There's a threefold gifting here. The gifting of His birth. That's what we're celebrating today. Today, the first day of Sukkot, we're celebrating that Yeshua was born on the first day of Sukkot. But we also have the gifting of His death. Yeshua was the Lamb of Elohim. It says, who took away the sin of the world. And the gifting of His resurrection, where through one man, sin came into the world and death through sin. But through one man comes the resurrection of the dead. Adonai gave His only begotten Son. And what are the dates that He gave? He was born on Sukkot on the 15th day of the 7th month, the month of Tishri. He died on Passover, the 14th day of the first month. And He resurrected 3 days and 3 nights after Passover on the first day of the week, a Yom Rishon. It was a Saturday night, the beginning of the first day of the week. Like right now, this day begins as the sun went down, the day biblically began. And Yeshua died on a Wednesday day. 3 days and 3 nights later, on a Saturday night, Yeshua resurrected. That Saturday night was the first day of the week. These are the traditional but false dates. He wasn't born on Christmas. He didn't die on Good Friday. He didn't resurrect on Easter, 2 nights and 1 day after Good Friday, on the first day of the week in the morning. Look how they have it. Yeshua Himself said His own words. As Yonah was in the belly of the great fish, so the Son of Man will be in the heart of the earth. 3 days and 3 nights. 3 days and 3 nights. 72 hours. How do you get 3 days and 2 nights? 3 days and 3 nights into 2 nights and 1 day. From a Friday to a Sunday morning. You don't. Those are false. One thing we also know is that He was born in a manger. We know that he died on the cross. We know that he resurrected from the tomb. But we also know some other things. Look at this. I want you to choose your Messiah. Choose Jesus or Yeshua. You can't have both. You got to have either Yeshua or Jesus. Now, Jesus was born on December 25th. He died on Good Friday, resurrected on Easter. Yeshua was born on Sukkot, the 15th day of the 7th month. He died on Passover, the 14th day of the first month. And he resurrected on first fruits 3 days and 3 nights after Passover on the first day of the week. In the evening of the first day of the week, the beginning. Choose your Messiah. I choose Yeshua. But I'm afraid, Paul says to the Corinthians, that just as the serpent with his cunning seduced Eve, your minds may be led astray from single devotion to Messiah, because any newcomer, and think of this was in Paul's time. There's all kinds of newcomers out there, especially on the internet. Any newcomer has only to preach a Yeshua different than the one we preached. Or you have only to receive a spirit, a ruach, different from the one you received. Or a gospel different from the one you accepted, and you receive them with open arms. Let me tell you, there's all kinds of Jesuses out there. There's all kinds of spirits out there. There's all kinds of gospels out there. We must make sure we follow the right Yeshua. Not the Yeshua of this group or the Yeshua of that group, but the Yeshua that is found in Messianic prophecy from Breshit, from Genesis, through the Torah, through the prophets. The true Yeshua can only be found through Torah and Tanakh. That's how we know who the real Yeshua is, the real Messiah. We have to go there. He was born in a manger, it's empty. Died on the cross, it's empty. He was buried in a tomb, it's empty. Yeshua empties things, but he is alive and came to save the world by the threefold action of birth, death, and resurrection. And guess what is not empty? Your hearts. My heart. It's full. It's full of Adonai. It's full of the Spirit. It's full of Yeshua. The birth of Yeshua. He's the son of Elohim. But there is a satanic plot to conceal the salvation of the world. There's a satanic plot to conceal him. It comes out with, and I've heard these four things people say. You know what? It doesn't matter when he was born as long as he was born. You ever hear that one? After all, no one knows when he was born. I don't worship Santa. It's for the children. All kinds of excuses. You know, Yeshua's birth on December 25th is a false narrative. It's a false narrative that has started because of people's misunderstanding of things, not knowing, not studying Scripture, not studying prophecy, and not even studying the book of Luke. But an observant and careful study of Luke chapters 1 and 2 reveals the true and historic account of the conception and birth of both Yohanan and Yeshua. Can you imagine that? There's over 300 detailed prophetic verses on Messiah. They deal with his life, the time, place, lineage, ministry, his death, and other aspects of who the Messiah was going to be. About 30 prophecies are about his death. Watch what Malachi says. Malachi 4:4. Remember the Torah of Moshe, my servant, even the statutes and ordinances, the Mishpatim and Chukim, which I commanded him in Horeb for all Israel. Behold, I am going to send you Eliyahu, Hanavi, Elijah the prophet, before the coming of the great and terrible day of Yahweh. He will restore the hearts of the fathers to their children, and the hearts of the children to their fathers, lest I come and smite the land with a curse. This is the last prophetic verse. This is the last prophet to speak prophetically. And one of those prophecies, one of those messianic prophecies has to do with the coming of Eliyahu Hanavi, Elijah the prophet. And so, after this prophet spoke, a year goes by, 10 years go by, 100 years go by, 200 years go by, 300 years go by. All kinds of nations have overtaken Israel. The Babylonians, the Medo-Persians, the Greeks, and now the Romans. And no Eliyahu Hanavi. And in the temple, twice a day, at 9 o'clock in the morning and 3 o'clock in the afternoon, there was a sacrifice of sin, a sin sacrifice, and prayers in the temple. And a priest, a regular priest, would be chosen to go and do the Amidah. And in those days, today it's called the standing prayer, but in those days it was prostrate before Adonai in front of the altar of incense, in front of the curtain, with the menorah on this side and the table of showbread on that side on the left. And a priest would come and pray, and one of the prayers was for Elijah Hanavi to come. And of course he could offer his own prayers. And so in Luke 1:5, it says, in the time of Herod, king of Judea, there was a priest named Zachariah. Zachariah comes from Zachar, to remember. To remember. And Zachariah would mean Yah remembers. Who belonged to the priestly division of Aviyah. Yah is my father. His wife Elisheva, the covenant of Elohim, was also a descendant of Acharon, of Aaron. He belonged to a section called the Aviyah section. Now this is very important, because David in 1 Chronicles 24 divides all the priests. There were so many priests, so many Kohanim, that he divided them into 24 sections. And each section served twice a year. And so the first section to served on the first week of the year, the second section, second week. And then we have Passover, and all the priests came for Passover. And so for this time, we see that he belonged to the 8th section. The Avia section there in 1 Chronicles 24 is the 8th section. And they served on the 10th week of the year, right after Passover and right after Shavuot. So they are the 10th section to serve. And so once we know that, when they served, when Avia served, now what happens is, as Zachariah was in there offering the incense and praying to Adonai, and with the prayers, with all of Israel outside, all the priests outside, he was the only one there before Adonai. And as he was there laying before Adonai with his face, shachak, with his face to Adonai, all of a sudden, the messenger, Gabriel, appears right here to his left. And now he speaks to him. And he tells him that Adonai has answered his prayer. Well, what prayer? He's praying for Eliyahu, he's praying for Israel, he's praying against the enemy, all kinds of prayers. But he's also, because this is the only time he would ever serve. Only one time every Cohen could only serve inside the temple one time. And they were chosen by lot. And he came, and his wife was barren. He came and was praying for a son to take away the humiliation of his wife. And he was praying for a son. And the angel says that you are going to have a son, and you're going to name him Yohanan. And he says that he's going to be the Eliyahu who's going to turn the hearts of the fathers towards their son. And so he goes back home as the angel speaks to him. And what we see here is on the first month, we see there on the first month of the year, on the biblical Rosh Hashanah of Exodus 12:1, the second month, the third month, the fourth month, the fifth month, it is here where Elisheva conceives. And she conceives, and here's her first month all the way to the 9th month. Now what's interesting is that from here to the 9th month, we go back to the first month. What is the feast of the first month, major feast? Pesach. So we see that Yohanan was conceived right after Shavuot here, and he now is born, and we're going to see this again in another format, that he's born in Passover time. Now, in the 6th month of Elisheva's pregnancy, not the 6th month of the year, he will make this clear later. In the 6th month, the angel Gabriel again was sent by Elohim to a town in Galilee called Nazareth. And he comes to this young Jewish virgin girl. And he says to her, Shalom Aleichem, highly favored. And he says to her, you are to conceive and you are to bear a son. And you must call him Yeshua, which means salvation. You must call him salvation. And he will be great, and he will take the throne of his ancestor David, which means that he's going to be a human. He's going to be a descendant of David, because Mary was a descendant of David through David's son Nathan. And she is betrothed to a man named Joseph, also of the house of David, but through Solomon's son, David's son Solomon. And he says to her that he is going to be called Ben Elohim. He's going to be called Ben Elohim. She says, how could this be? I am a virgin. I am a Parthenon. In the Greek word there, I'm a Parthenon, which is the same word that is used in Isaiah 7:14 in the Septuagint. In the Masoretic text it says Alma, but in the Septuagint it says Parthenon. And he says that the Ruach HaKodesh will come upon you, and the power of El Elyon will overshadow you. And again he says, and the child will be Ben Elohim, the son of Elohim. And he says to her, your cousin Elizabeth is now in her 6th month. And she says, let it be done according to your will. And at that very moment, when she said, let it be done, for nothing is impossible to Elohim, let it be done. At that very moment that she said, let it be done. One thing we know from Psalms, from the book of Psalms, Psalm 1. One of the things that we know is that it is a drama of the Messiah and the Father and the Messiah. And the Messiah and the Father talk. And the Messiah says, this day you have said, I have become your Father. And at that very moment, the moment Mary said that Yeshua was, and that Yeshua, this within her, let it be done. At that very moment, this idea of this drama of Psalm 2 that right there occurs, and Yeshua now becomes Ben Elohim. Again, there you have the Holy Spirit will come upon you, power of Most High. The child will be holy, called Ben Elohim, son of Elohim. Here's the conception and birth of, here's the Avia section, Shavuot. Elisheva conceives a normal pregnancy, but still guided by Adonai. They go home. Zachariah goes home, and they're intimate with one another. She conceives, and 9 months. Now look at this. This is Hanukkah. Hanukkah now, in the 9th biblical month, is also the 6th month of Elisheva's conception. And here's where Miriam conceives. And now we start counting 9 months, and Yeshua now is born at Sukkot. By the way, in the 3rd month, she goes to Elisheva. She goes to a town in Judea from Nazareth, and goes to Judea in her 3rd month, and Elisheva's in her 6th month, and she stays there 3 months until Yohanan is born. Then she goes back to Nazareth, and then right before she was born, they go to Jerusalem, and again, after the birth of Yeshua, And these are all the things that happen, and you could study these. Even we're going to look at those more. Here's the chronology once again from another angle. The angel Gabriel appears to Zachariah. He announces Elisheva would have a child at the temple in Jerusalem. It was right after Shavuot. The Eliyahu prophecy of Malachi 4 becomes real. Now, when they asked Yeshua about the Elijah that was to come, what did Yeshua say? Yochanan is the Eliyahu who was to come. Elijah wasn't going to rise from the dead. He would now, Yochanan came in the spirit and power of Elijah. And then he returns to Ayin Kerem, where they live, and Yochanan is conceived. Same thing here. Gabriel told Mary she would give birth to a child. And this was in Nazareth. It was during Hanukkah, 6 months into Elisheva's pregnancy. And then Mary says, goes into this prayer, my soul magnifies Adonai. Actually, in the word there, it's from a verse in Psalms. It says, my soul magnifies Yod-Heh Vav-Heh. And she praises Adonai, that Adonai has given her this opportunity. Miriam goes to visit her cousin Elisheva in Ayin Kerem, stays 3 months to the birth of Yochanan. Yochanan is born at Passover in Ayin Kerem. Nazareth, the angel now goes to Joseph. Now remember that Joseph and Miriam were betrothed to one another. And the betrothal at that time was more than just like being engaged today. The betrothal was actually a time where they came together and they had to divorce if they wanted to separate. And when he found out, he wanted to divorce her, but the angel came to Joseph and said, no, do not divorce. This is of Adonai. And you must name him also Yeshua. He came to him in a dream. And here's Nazareth. And in those days, here's Samaria. So when someone went from Nazareth, they actually came through here, around where what Bethshan is today. They would cross the Jordan River, and they'd go on the east bank, and then they would cross the river, the Jordan River here by Jericho, and then go up the Jericho Road to Jerusalem, and then they went to Bethlehem. So between Nazareth and Jerusalem, as the crow flies, is about 70 miles. So they probably went more like 130, 140 miles on the trip. Yeshua was born in Bethlehem of Judah at Sukkot. They had put him with swaddling clothes. The swaddling clothes were actually made there in Bethlehem, which was a city of the Kohanim, from the used undergarments of the Kohanim. And the undergarments were full from top to bottom to the floor, like a under, all the way to the floor. It wasn't what other people say. They laid him in a manger. Announcement by shepherds to the angels announced. He was circumcised on Shemini Asaret on the 8th day. And they did the Pidyon Haben, where they redeemed him with the silver coins. At least 40 days after his birth, Yeshua was dedicated at the temple in Jerusalem, so they had to go back. Magi from the east visited Yeshua and brought him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And they follow a star. Now, it says they followed a star, and the star came here, and then it was over there. to Bethlehem. But they came 2 years later when Yeshua was a little teknan, a little toddler. And so from this we understand, from these verses, and I want to have you to go home and study what we just studied here. Go home and study. Go home and put these together or tear them apart. And look at them. But I definitely know that Yeshua was not born in December. Now, the only thing I like about the December 25th thing is that some of the hymns, some of the Christmas hymns are full of good theology. There's some good theology in some of those. But again, most of them are worldly or, Santa and, in fact, we could go on in part 2. We won't go to part 2. But part 2 of this is a understanding of some of the aspects of what Christmas is and where it comes from, some of the pagan elements. And you could go ahead and study those on your own. But one thing that we do know is that Yeshua was not born. Let's go ahead and stand. Father, I thank you for the opportunity that we have to be here. We pray that your Ruach HaKodesh could help us study and research more. And Father, that we could celebrate the birth of Yeshua, not as an alternative Christmas or anything like that, and not with birthday cakes or anything like that, but to truly say, Yeshua is our feast of Sukkot. He is our harvest. In the name of Yeshua. Yeverechecha Yahweh vayishmerecha. Ayir Yahweh panav elecha vichunecha. Asa Yahweh panav elecha vayasem lecha shalom. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. May Yahweh make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May Yahweh lift up the light of his countenance upon you and give you his peace. Shalom, shalom. Have a good night. And
Shalom, shalom. Welcome to Olive Tree Fellowship and Torah Unleashed Ministries. Thank you for joining us on our channel. If you have enjoyed this teaching and would like to see more, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to click the notification bell so that you can be notified when we have new videos. If you would like to support Olive Tree Fellowship and Torah Unleashed Ministries, please visit us at olivetreefellowship.com or toraunleashed.org. We thank you for your past support and hope to continue with you. Shalom, shalom. Have a good day. Shalom, shalom y bienvenidos a Olive Tree y a la Torah Desatada. Les doy gracias a ustedes y a Adonai por su apoyo que nos han dado aquí. Y si quieren continuar a hacer una donación, pueden ir aquí en toraunleashed.org o en olivetreefellowship.com y ahí pueden dar una donación. Su apoyo, su ayuda es importante en estos días. Shalom, shalom.